Hello, all you beautiful people out there. What is going on? This is your friend Brady coming at you fast with another Beast Builds video. And today we are going to be looking at the second half of our fighters, the Bruisers, as I like to call them, or the Assassins, or the Fighters, or the Duelers, the fighters that aren't the tanks that we looked at in the other video. And these are the last 5 that are currently out in the game, including Kallari, Chimera, Grux, Quang, and Feng Mao. So we're going to go ahead and start with our crazy mofo. We're going to start with a Khaimera, who just got a new skin recently. I mean, I'm a Grux main, so I'm a bit salty about it, but let's be real. We all know that Grux can be Chimera in a 1v1 any day, or if even not even in a 1v1, but in a team fight. We're not in a team fight, but lane push. No. Okay, I gotta calm down, yo. Let's go over to the prime card, which is gonna be Warlord, because Chimera likes dealing a lot of damage, especially, in a burst form with his abilities, with his ult. So we want to make sure that we focus damage with him. Now, again, the biggest thing with Chimera that I want to point out is that I do use Blink Charm on Chimera. This gives him so much more added mobility. It throws a lot of people off guard, and it actually improves your survivability by a lot because you can dive in, attack, use your abilities, and then get out in case something goes wrong, which a lot of people don't expect Chimera to be able to do. So Blink Charm is really, really nice. Some people like to use Blink Shot, but I'd rather use Blink Charm because usually you're not using it to chase kills, you're using this as an escape. So getting a kill or assist within 5 seconds is not always guaranteed. As for everything else, you're going to start off with a lot of damage early game. You're going to move into health and armor later on in the game, as typical with most bruisers. Like freaking Mike Tyson over here. You never want to go raw damage, and you don't need to build him attack speed because he has Q for that. So you don't really need to build attack speed, even though people are like, but what if but his health stacks stack quicker? His health stacks are nice, but they're not the main focal point. They have a cap, which is pretty short in my opinion, so it's really not going to work too well. So here's the build for Chimera. Let's move on to the next one, which is of course going to be our Space Rhino of Sexiness, Grux, my favorite jungler. Just an amazing hero, very, very powerful, amazing range of abilities, very versatile. So the thing with him is obviously we're going to jungle with Grux. I mean, you could also lane with Grux, but I prefer him in jungle. You can lane with him, but my start is always Health Pot and Executioner's Key with him. And then I have a very interesting start with him. So I start off with Brawler's Ward, okay, put 3 minor strikes in the Brawler's Ward. I like Brawler's Ward because it gives me a little bit more mana to use his abilities more often. Some people prefer Guardian's Ward, but honestly, 75 mana is the difference between having another pull, another smash and grab, which could be the difference in a team fight early game, so I like to have Brawler's Ward. And then I like to build into Flashfire Piston, actually, as my next card, which is not a 1-point card whatsoever, and I know that might look weird, but we're actually going to keep this card in our deck for a little bit. And the reason I have that is because it's really hard to fit a couple of more extra 1-pointer cards into this deck. Plus I don't have that many minor strikes anyways, so this works out really well for my second card. And then with some intermediates, if I want to, I have some Amulet of the Veterans here with 1 strike health, give me a little bit more a little more damage, a little more health, but sometimes, even most of the time, I actually skip these and go straight into, my armor, my damage later on in the game, my Wind Carver Blade that has some damage, and I also have Scarab Claws in here if we're going against a Muriel, and I did the math, and I would use this to replace Wind Carver Blade if we were going against Muriel. So here is the deck right there. I also have some couple of Pierce cards down here, and another major strike down here, just in case, I want a bit more Pierce in my Rust Breaker, or I want a major strike somewhere along the line, somewhere else where it doesn't need a major strike. Actually, rather than that, let's just go with another major Pierce, just because, actually, we're just going to go right here. We're just going to put major Pierce right here, and, yeah, cool, okay. That's what we want to do. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Let's go ahead and look at who we got. Oh, Kallari. Let's look at Kallari. Now, my Kallari deck is actually kind of interesting. I think a lot of people might not be familiar with this kind of Kallari. I was actually introduced to this build by a couple of really good Kallari players that I've ran into over the months, and it's actually somewhat decent. I'm not gonna lie, I don't play Kallari too much, but if you like Kallari, you can go ahead and give this deck a try. You got the Warlord Prime card. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, oh crap, let me go up here. The Centurion Prime card on Grux because it gives him so much more sustainability in a team fight, and he can use his abilities more often in that team fight with more survivability. I use Centurion on him, actually, which is really, really, really nice. I prefer that to Warlord. But anyway, we got Killer Queen over here. We got Warlord on her because we want to make sure she does a lot of damage, of course. We're going to start off with in lane, typically. So health pot, health token, strike token, or you can do health pot, executioner's key if you'd like, if you want to have keys. Start off with a Void Steel Dagger for a good amount of damage and pen early game. Have a Brawler's Ward here with a 2-point strike in there as a third, because we have Thunder Cleaver here as our third item, which will help us with lane clear so much when playing with Kallari. It actually helps with lane clear. You're actually able to push lanes pretty effectively with Kallari while using Thunder Cleaver. And of course, using your wards to dismantle the enemy wards when they try to place it and try and kill you. So that's really, really nice. And then you guys are starting to notice that I got a lot of tanky items in here, Start off with the Toon Barrier, 3 minor health, Temper Plate minor health for that early game. Then go into a bit more damage, maybe put in an Adamant Edge or a Void Steel Dagger, and then start building up that resistance. Actually go with Tank Kallari and start building up that resistance. It throws a lot of people off guard, and even though you might not absolutely melt, everybody in the game, you'll still deal a decent amount of damage to the Murdochs or the Sparrows, the Rangers that you're focusing. You'll still deal a good amount of damage with your autos as well. Remember, like, Kallari scales like a fighter. She deals a good amount of damage with her auto attacks. Her auto attacks are the strongest auto attacks out of any other fighter in the game, and they scale the best. So you can just keep dancing around, keep picking away at the enemy Murdoch while he shoots at you, but you got so much armor that it actually keeps you alive in the fight so much longer with that 1v1, so to speak, or even in a team fight. And, you have a little bit of pen here with that Void Steel Dagger as well if you need it, if you actually are trying to deal some damage to fighters as well, which usually you wouldn't be 1v1ing fighters as an assassin, but you can still come in and deal a good amount of burst damage with this. And I used to have Scourging Tails, but I decided to take it out in place for Thunder Cleaver just because the wave clear and the instant burst of damage just seems to be so much more useful, especially with a 30-second cooldown. It's just super nice, and it's a little bit of damage that Assassin Kallari could really, really use. So I don't know, take this deck for a spin, see if you guys like it. It's actually a pretty decent deck, I'm not going to lie. I won my last game when I used it, and I was playing against decent people as well, so go ahead and try that out. The next one, I hate how it goes to the top every single time. The next one that we're going to be looking at is going to be a real Quang Big Wang, or Quang. And again, I prefer him in lane with the Warlord Prime card. I think he's just a really good laner. I think he's one of the best laners in the game because he can get back to lane so quick using his ult. Really, really nice. He can also clear waves super quick using his ult, which of course is really nice as well. If you do want to go jungling with him, Health Potion, Executioner's Key, always my favorite start. I love it. You can also go with the Vampiric Elixir on him for his lifesteal if you really, really like. It can stack on his ability, his passive ability pretty well. I'm just too old school, yo. I just like Health Pot, honestly. I just like that plus 10 health regen for 15 seconds. So, yeah, but anyway. Then we have our start. So we have Brawler's Ward. Again, he uses a lot of mana with his abilities, so that's why we have Brawler's Ward. Quartz Blade with a little bit of health in there and some mana regen, because he does use a lot of mana with his abilities, and we want a little bit of mana regen. Then the same tanky start in the beginning, or sometimes, I prefer to build my guys tanky. If you don't want to, you can also go ahead and, put in another, like, three 1-point cards into like something like a wind cover or blade or something with some attack speed and some minor strikes in there. But it's the struggle getting these minor strikes for me. I don't know what it is, but if I had more, I would make a lot more aggressive decks. But honestly, tanky Quang is still really, really good early game because he does do a good amount of burst damage with his ultimate anyway. So yeah, it's not till later where we really need to start doing that kind of stuff. Plus it helps with his survivability. And we don't really have any mid-game cards in here. I usually like to throw in mid-game cards, but I usually just go straight into an Adamant Edge with him for my damage card after those resistant items are built. And then after this Adamant Edge, I can start, changing the resistant items out for the higher resistance items like this Tempered Plate, and then this Satori Cloak. Satori Cloak is a really good card on him. Really good for shredding armor. If you looked at the Greystone part in my last tank fighter build update, then you know what it does. Shreds physical armor. Super nice. Because we built Quang so tanky, it's going to shred a lot of armor. And yeah, that's going to be really nice as well. And then we also have Scarab Claws here again to go up against a Muriel, this Scarab Claws. Again, we'll replace this Wind Carver Blade instead because Scarab Claws gives us attack speed. So we're going to replace another thing that deals with attack speed. If not, then we're just going to have this as our last card. So a good mix between damage, pen, shred, and armor / health in this deck. So not too shabby. All right, now let's go to the last one, which is Feng Mao, which a lot of people have been wanting me to make a deck on him because I feel like less and less people use Feng Mao, but Feng Mao is really, really good, especially even in solo lane, to be honest. He's really good in solo lane. You guys need to try him out. I might make a solo lane guide and feature him in it just to show you guys that he's pretty good with solo lane. And Warlord again, because he is a burst damage kind of hero, so we want to make sure we deal a lot of burst damage. We're going to start off, again, Brawler's Ward, Quartz Blade for a little bit of tankiness and survivability in lane, also some mana regen for sustainability. And then we're going to move on into, again, we have Toon Barrier with 3 lesser healths. We have Radiant Mantle here instead of that Toon Barrier, or instead of Tempered Plate, rather. We have Radiant Mantle with 1 lesser health, which is really good for laning as well. Also countering Iggy's turrets. Really, really nice. And then we have our Flashfire Piston, and then our Rust Breaker after that. Flashfire Piston is going to be our mid-game card. It has 9 points, so it's going to be our mid-game card. We have Rust Breaker, and of course Satori Cloak and Tempered Plate to replace those first. Toon Barrier and Radiant Mantles later down the line. Rust Breaker just to deal a really insane amount of damage. And I actually don't have much pen in this deck because, again, we have Satori Cloak, which does the pen for us, shreds physical armor, energy armor. That's why I love order heroes, because you don't really have to worry about pen when you have stuff like Satori Cloak. So these are the decks for the other 5 fighters that I left out from the previous video. Hopefully it has been helpful. Let me know what you guys think of these decks. Take them out for a spin. Come back to this video. See if they work for you. See if they don't. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you got to this point in the video, type in Feng Mao is so sexy. And I will know you guys got to this point. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.